There is a wall in front of you, still, silent, unyielding. Not brick, not steel, but something stranger. A boundary made not of matter but of energy. In the classical world, the one of pebbles and planets, this would be the end of the road. You would walk and stop. The law is clear. If you do not have enough energy to rise above the wall, you must turn away. But this is not the world you are standing in tonight. Here the rules hesitate. The line between what is allowed and what is forbidden begins to blur, not out of disobedience, but because the fabric of nature is soft, uncertain, always trembling. You press your hand against the invisible barrier. Nothing pushes back, yet something is there. A forbidden zone. A stretch of space that should, by all accounts, be impossible to cross. And still, particles do. They do not break the wall. They do not leap over it. They pass through, like ghosts, like whispers, like breath through a keyhole. They tunnel. This is quantum tunneling, a phenomenon that should not exist, and yet does. Close your eyes. Imagine a tiny marble rolling up a hill, too small, too slow. It doesn't have the energy to make it over the top. In your everyday world it would roll back down, but now shrink that marble to the scale of an electron, and let it live, not by certainty, but by probability. In this strange twilight of the very small, the marble does not only live where you see it, it exists in possibilities. It might be here, it might be there. Its being is not confined to one single point but spread out, like mist, like music, like hope, and part of that mist reaches to the other side of the hill. If even the tiniest part of it touches there, there is a chance, just a chance, that it will be found on the far side. Without climbing, without force, just appearing, not by magic, by math. You sit with this for a while, the idea that a particle or even a process can bypass a rule not by breaking it, but by never being fully committed to it in the first place. Quantum tunneling does not scream, it whispers. It is how protons escape their prisons inside atomic nuclei. It is how the sun, against all odds, shines. Its heat and light are born from particles slipping through barriers, from reactions that would be too slow, too rare, if not for this loophole in reality. And here's the quiet truth. Without tunneling, the universe would be dim and cold. Fusion, the process that powers stars, relies on it. At the heart of the sun, hydrogen atoms try to collide, but each one is positively charged, and as you know, like charges repel. The closer they get, the stronger the push. They should never touch, but because of quantum tunneling, sometimes they do, just enough to fuse, just enough to release light, just enough to keep us warm. You walk along the wall now, running your fingers along its unseen edge. There are places in nature where tunneling becomes everything. In the electronics that live inside your phone, tiny semiconductors use this effect to operate. Without tunneling, your entire modern life would go dark. And more curiously, this same phenomenon may explain how entire universes begin. In some cosmological theories, the early vacuum of space was perched in a high-energy state, balanced on a ledge, and then a quantum fluctuation tunneled through a barrier, from one state to another, from stillness into expansion. The Big Bang, born not in a burst of force, but in a soft probability wave finding a way forward. There is something gentle about this, that reality at its smallest doesn't always shout. Sometimes it hums, sometimes it slips between cracks. You breathe slowly. You let the idea in that there are parts of you and of the world that do not need brute strength to progress. Sometimes possibility is enough. Sometimes being near the edge of what is allowed is all it takes to pass through, and suddenly the wall no longer feels like a threat. It feels like an invitation, not to break the rules but to explore the space where certainty softens. The world of the quantum is not rigid, it is full of flicker and grace. And as you drift deeper into this universe of waves and whispers, you begin to wonder, if particles can tunnel through walls, what else might slip between the seams of the impossible? You lie still, but nothing inside you is truly still. Not your atoms, not your thoughts, not even the silence in your breath. Somewhere beneath muscle and marrow, reality trembles, softly, endlessly. It's a hum so delicate, so fundamental, it slips beneath sound and sensation. This is not the hum of blood or bone, it's the hum of existence itself, the quiet, rhythmic quiver of particles unsure of their place. You are built on this vibration. Everything is, at the smallest scales. The universe does not rest, and it does not decide. Here you do not sit on one side of a wall or the other. You drift, you shimmer between, you become possibility itself. This is the realm of quantum tunneling, a phenomenon both strange and essential. Imagine a tiny particle, caught in front of a wall. In the classical world, it stays put, blocked by the barrier, obedient to the rules of logic and location. But in the quantum world, rules loosen like threads at the edge of a dream. Here the wall is not solid, not truly. It's a suggestion, a probability field, something a particle might ignore. It may vanish and reappear on the other side, as if the wall never mattered, not because it forced its way through, but because it wasn't entirely here to begin with. You feel that faint quiver, like your own mind brushing against something it can't quite grasp. That is tunneling. Not in a straight line, not with force, but with subtlety. Quantum particles do not move from place to place like travelers on a map. They ripple, they spread out like waves, with parts of them brushing into all possibilities at once. And in that shimmering haze of maybe, sometimes, just sometimes, they emerge where they should not be. Tunneling is not a cheat. It is not magic. It is the natural consequence of uncertainty, a deep truth about the way the world is stitched together. You imagine your hand resting gently against your chest. You feel the warmth, the quiet pulsing of life. But in that skin and in those cells, tiny events unfold beyond your knowing. Protons, electrons, dancing near barriers, some cross, some stay, all of them humming in superposition. Inside the heart of the sun, tunneling is what lets fusion happen. It is the thread that lights the stars. Without it, the universe would remain dark and cold, its particles forever repelled. But because of tunneling, the impossible becomes the inevitable. Because of tunneling, stars shine, and so do you. Think of how many barriers exist in nature. Energy barriers, force fields, mountains of probability that say, no, not here. And yet, through tunneling, particles slip through, quiet as mist through a crack. They do not break the wall, they simply ignore it, because in the quantum world, being here and being there are not so different. This is the lesson you cradle tonight. You are not fully located. Your presence, like the particles, is a haze of probability. You are both here and beyond. And when you dream, perhaps it is tunneling that lets your thoughts pass through the borders of logic. Nothing in your body is static. Every atom hums with a fundamental blur, uncertain of its position, its momentum, its choice. But this blur is not confusion, it is potential. It is how the universe keeps doors open. You picture a violin string, quivering just before the note, or the pause between lightning and thunder. That is what the quantum world is like, a waiting, a trembling, a refusal to settle entirely into one fate. And from this refusal, miracles emerge. A molecule in your cells forms just right, because an electron tunneled, a memory in your mind solidifies, because atoms found alignment, halfway across what should have been a gap. The gentle impossible becomes real, again and again. So when you feel the weight of a wall, whether it is fear, doubt, or physics, remember the particles beneath your skin. They do not charge ahead, they do not fight. They hum, they wait, they gently slip through. And what a beautiful lesson that is, to know that persistence does not always look like force. Sometimes, it looks like patience. Sometimes, it looks like dancing at the edge of possibility. Sometimes, it looks like vanishing, only to reappear beyond the barrier, transformed. Tunneling is not a breaking, it is a becoming. It is the softest, yes, whispered through 1,000 no's. It is your body's way of remembering that you are not trapped, even when all paths seem blocked, because the rules are more fluid than they seem, and you, like every trembling electron, carry within you the power to move through the impossible. Now, let yourself rest inside that truth. Feel the space between certainty and curiosity, between where you are and where you might appear. Feel the softness of a world that never quite settles, the shimmer of becoming, the calm of a quiet escape. Let this be your breath tonight, not fixed but flowing, not forced but curious, not here or there, but softly, beautifully, both. You are drifting now, sinking into stillness, into thought, and in this quiet, you feel something impossible begin to take shape. Imagine this. You are standing before a great stone wall. It is tall, ancient, immovable. It should stop you, but somehow softly, effortlessly, you pass through it. Not by pushing, not by breaking. You simply appear on the other side. This is not a dream. This is quantum tunneling. At the scale of atoms and waves, the world is not built on certainty, but on possibility. Particles, those tiny humming pulses of energy, do not march in straight lines. They shimmer, spread, and blur like ink in water. And when one of these particles meets a barrier, something strange happens. Classically, logically, it should stop. The wall should block it. It doesn't have enough energy to climb over, nor the strength to break through. But in the quantum world, walls are not absolutes. They are probabilities. And particles, they are possibilities. You see, every particle, even the one nestled inside your finger, or in the corner of your eye, is also a wave. It stretches out, not quite here, not quite there. A little of it spills past the edge of the wall, a whisper, a shadow, and just sometimes when the conditions are just right, the particle is there, on the far side. It didn't break the wall, it didn't climb it, it tunneled like a ghost moving through a locked door. There is no push in this process, no violence, only gentleness, chance, and the eerie math of the universe. Tunneling happens constantly. In the nuclear heart of the sun, it is tunneling that lets hydrogen become helium, releasing the light that warms your face each morning. Without tunneling, the sun would not shine, and your breath, your skin, your thoughts, none of it would be here, on Earth, within you. Tunneling is just as real. Enzymes in your body, guiding chemical reactions, rely on this subtle magic. Protons and electrons, dancing through your cells, sometimes take the forbidden route, not around the wall, but through it. A particle appears where it should not be, but where it can be. And just like that, your body continues its quiet symphony. It's not cheating. It's not breaking rules. It's a feature of the rules themselves. At this level of reality, what we call impossible is just another flavor of unlikely, and unlikely things, given enough time, they happen. You feel the quiet weight of that idea. Tunneling isn't a trick of momentum. It isn't brute force. It's surrender the universe, allowing softness to do what strength could not. There's a lesson here. Somewhere beneath the equations, that change does not always roar. Sometimes it arrives silently, not by smashing through, but by flowing past, like a breath that escapes through a crack, like a thought that sneaks into awareness, like you, wandering through the impossible, guided not by certainty, but by possibility. Physicists call it quantum indeterminacy, this spread, this blur, this mabeness. The idea that a particle's location is not fixed until it is observed. Until then, it exists in many places, a probability cloud. And so, as this cloudy wave approaches a barrier, part of it leaks forward, decaying, weakening, but still present. And if enough of that presence remains, the particle emerges on the other side, not with less energy, not diminished, just there. The tunneling effect is real. It has been measured, engineered, used. Scanning tunneling microscopes use this very principle to image atoms on a surface, measuring the ghosting of electrons from a tiny needle into the matter beneath. Without tunneling, this eye into the atomic world would not exist. And it gets stranger still. In quantum computing, that delicate emerging realm of logic and light tunneling plays a part too. Electrons slip through barriers to flip quantum bits, enabling calculations far beyond our normal machines. We are beginning to build technology from the softness of the world. We are learning to work with what flows, rather than only what resists. It is a quiet revolution, invisible, but unstoppable. You take a breath and feel something in your chest ease. The idea that barriers are not always final settles in your mind. Tunneling doesn't happen all the time, but it happens often enough to shape everything. It is rare but reliable, improbable but inevitable. You wonder now, where in your own life have you been pressing hard against a wall, when something softer might have carried you through? Could patience be a kind of quantum force? Could hope, like a particle wave, reach beyond the present and emerge on the far side of difficulty? It is not about ignoring obstacles, it is about knowing they are not always solid, not at the deepest levels, not in the places where truth and chance blur together. You drift further, feeling yourself dissolve into that probability cloud, somewhere between where you are and where you could be. Because at the smallest scales, movement does not require permission. It only requires possibility, and possibility, like a quiet heartbeat, is always there even through walls. You rest here, wrapped in this new idea. The strangeness of softness, the quiet magic of appearing where you were told you could not go. Somewhere ahead, another mystery hums, a question not of barriers, but of balance, of things that are paired, mirrored, entangled in ways we cannot always see. You are drifting now gently, weightlessly far from the surface of your world. The noise of everyday life recedes behind you like distant thunder, and in its place, a hush settles. You float past clouds, through the velvet darkness of space, until you come to rest in the heart of something impossibly bright. This is no ordinary place. This is a star, and not just any star. It is your star. The sun, that warm presence above your days, so familiar, yet so strange up close. You enter its quiet furnace. It is not silent, not really, but the sounds here are more like thoughts, like pulses, like whispers exchanged between particles that never should have touched. Deep inside, the pressure is immense. Atoms are packed so tightly, their identities blur. Hydrogen simple, weightless floats here, like ghostly beads in a bowl of invisible fire. These atoms are the building blocks of everything you know, and they dance in unbearable heat, jostling and vibrating in endless motion. But here's the puzzle: they should not be able to merge. They are all positively charged, these hydrogen nuclei, and positive repels positive. Like trying to force two magnets together the wrong way, they resist with invisible hands. According to classical physics, this is where the dance ends. The particles should bump, repel, and move on, never getting close enough to fuse. And yet, they do. They fuse. They become one. A hydrogen nucleus meets another, and together they become something new: helium. In that moment, energy is released, not in trickles, but in torrents. A flash of creation, a flame at the center of flame. And this reaction, repeated again and again, is what lights the stars. But how? How do they overcome that invisible wall between them? You lean closer, as though you could watch it happen. You try to feel what they feel. The answer lies in a strange idea, a whisper from the quantum world, a place where certainty shatters and probabilities shimmer like candlelight in water. This is the domain of quantum tunneling. Imagine standing before a tall, steep mountain. You're small, and the mountain is high. Too high to climb, too solid to cross. Yet in the quantum world, things do not follow the same rules. In this peculiar landscape, you, or rather, a particle, has a chance, however slim, to simply appear on the other side. Not by climbing, not by breaking through, but by being in two places at once, and choosing the one that defies expectation. It's not magic, not fantasy. It's a rule baked into the quantum heart of reality. A particle is not a point, it is a wave, and waves can stretch, they can reach. Even when the odds are thin, even when the barrier is tall, there is always a chance that the wave will find a way through, not over, not around, but through. In the sun's core, where temperatures reach millions of degrees, hydrogen atoms come close enough that their quantum waves begin to overlap. And when they do, there's a non-zero chance that they will tunnel. They will fuse, against the odds. The wall is still there, the repulsion is still real, but the particle, it slips through anyway, as if obeying a deeper rhythm, as if the universe itself hums a lullaby of possibility beneath the laws we once thought were unbreakable. And every time this happens, every time a particle tunnels where it should not be able to, a star shines a little brighter. You are not separate from this miracle. The warmth on your skin, the light in your room, the energy that powers your breath, all of it comes from this silent rebellion. Quantum tunneling isn't just an abstract trick of subatomic physics, it is the breath of the stars, the spark of life. It happens billions upon billions of times each second in the sun's core, and for each forbidden passage, a little energy is set free. That energy travels from the heart of the star, outward, passing through layers of plasma and magnetic storms, through empty space, and finally, to you. It takes thousands of years for a photon, born in the center of the sun, to make its way to the surface. It bounces, absorbed, and re-emitted, jostled like a leaf in a tide pool, all the way outward. But once it breaks free, once it reaches the surface, it takes only 8 minutes to cross the void to Earth. That photon may warm your hand, or grow a tree, or glint in a lover's eye. It is ancient, and also newborn, and it exists because of a quantum trick that defied resistance. Pause here. Breathe. Let your thoughts settle like ash in a still chamber. Feel the warmth on your skin, and remember it began with impossibility, with a silent yes, whispered in defiance of no. Now shift your gaze from the sun to the stars. They too are burning with the same secret. Every point of light in the night sky is a result of the same tunnel, the same soft breach of boundaries. The universe, it seems, is not as rigid as it looks. At its core, it is tender with possibility. Where rules end, wonder begins. Even your body, yes, yours, carries the signature of tunneling. The hydrogen in the water you drink, the helium in your breath, the carbon in your bones, all formed in the fire of ancient stars, shaped by passages that should have been impossible. Your existence is stitched with the thread of that same quantum grace. You begin to feel small and infinite, as though you too are part wave, part chance, part mystery. You drift again, not upward, but inward, into the realization that every rule you've known has its loophole, every limit, its leeway. And sometimes what feels like resistance is merely a threshold waiting for a softer kind of motion. You're not quite where you started, but not quite somewhere new. You're between, hovering. And as you do, you begin to wonder, if tunneling can let a particle pass through a wall, what else in this vast universe might slip through the cracks? You lie still, your breath quiet, your mind gently adrift, within the vast stillness of your resting body. Beneath your skin, deeper than your cells, lies a realm far smaller than you can see, yet more active than you can imagine. In this silence, something extraordinary is happening, something that defies the rigid laws of classical motion, something that slips between boundaries, as if the rules themselves bend to its rhythm. Here, in the warm pulse of your biology, quantum tunneling is at work. This is not some cold laboratory trick, nor a distant cosmic mystery. No, it is happening here inside you. Each heartbeat carries it. Every breath gives space for it. And though it sounds like science fiction, it is as real as the enzymes that digest your food or the neurons that let you dream. Picture this. An enzyme in your body, a biological helper, waits patiently for a reaction. Its job is to speed up change, to turn one molecule into another with elegant precision. But sometimes, the change it must spark is blocked by what seems an impossible wall, a barrier of energy that the molecule cannot climb. In a classical world, this would be the end of the story. The molecule cannot jump the wall, the reaction cannot proceed. But in the quantum world, there is another way. In this world, particles are not only things, they are waves. and waves can spread, shimmer, and stretch. When a particle faces a wall, its wave can bleed through just a little, a ghostly presence on the other side. And sometimes, astonishingly, the particle does not climb over the wall, nor go around it. It simply appears on the other side, as if the wall was never quite solid to begin with. This is quantum tunneling, a miracle of motion through the impossible, inside your cells, in places so small you'd need a billion just to fill a pinhead. This ghostly slip is essential to life. Hydrogen atoms tunnel inside your enzymes, allowing reactions to unfold 1,000 times faster than they otherwise would. Without tunneling, you could not digest food fast enough to stay alive. Your metabolism would slow, stall, and stop. DNA, the twisted ladder of your genetic code, also whispers with this strange physics. In the deep stillness of its spiral, hydrogen bonds between base pairs are stabilized, not just by chemistry, but by tunneling, too. This helps DNA maintain its shape and fidelity, even as it unzips and replicates itself over and over. But perhaps most startling of all, tunneling may touch even your thoughts. In the brain, a realm of dizzying complexity, information flows in delicate cascades. Neurons fire, synapses bridge gaps, and chemistry meets electricity in a dance that becomes emotion, memory, will. Some scientists believe that tunneling plays a part in this too, in the flow of protons within certain proteins, in the quick shift of electrons across gaps. A quantum step here, a skip there, tiny acts of defiance against the classical world that might shape the very structure of thought. Imagine that every time you feel a sudden intuition, every time a memory emerges like light through fog, there may be buried deep in the machinery, a flicker of tunneling, a ghost step across the impossible. This is not a claim of magic, it is the poetry of biology guided by physics. Your body is not simply mechanical, it is probabilistic. It does not run like a clock, tick by tick, gear by gear. Instead it shimmers, pulses and flows, its very existence echoing with uncertainty and made possible by the strange allowances of the quantum world. You are not just influenced by tunneling, you are tunneling in countless micro-moments, across countless cells in a choreography that makes your aliveness possible. The warmth you feel in your chest as you lie in bed, the slow thrum of your heartbeat. These are surface signs of deeper currents, currents that move not just through blood and nerves, but through the tiny tunnels of the quantum realm. The particles in your body do not obey the rigid paths of logic, they take shortcuts, disappear and reappear, follow probabilities instead of certainties. And somehow, from all this unsteady motion, something steady emerges, a thought, a breath, a body, a self. As you imagine this, the tunneling protons beneath your skin, the flickering electrons in your cells, let yourself feel smaller and larger at once. Smaller, because you are made of such incredibly delicate phenomena. Larger, because even such mystery belongs to you. The strange is not foreign, it is intimate. The impossible is not elsewhere, it is within you. And this too is a kind of peace, to know that even stillness is built from motion, that even rest is layered with activity, that even in the quietest parts of you, something is always slipping forward gently, invisibly toward change. In the next moments, as your breath softens and your thoughts float, let this awareness rest gently in you, that tunneling is not an exception but a feature, that your biology has folded the mysterious into the familiar. And perhaps this is the truest wonder, not that quantum tunneling can happen, but that it must for you to be here, alive, resting under the stars of your own inner sky. So now you drift, aware of the particles that move without paths, the pulses that cross barriers without breaking them. You feel a gentle hum of continuity, a rhythm not of footsteps but of flickers and chances, and just as one question fades into sleep, another rises quietly, with no need for answers just yet. If tunneling can shape the body, could it also ripple through time itself? You are resting in a quiet room, the walls of your mind soft and glowing, as if the world itself is exhaling slowly beside you. In this stillness, a strange idea begins to unfold. Imagine cupping your hands gently around a small shimmering marble. You close them, certain you've caught it. And yet, when you open them again, the marble is gone. Not rolled away, not slipped between your fingers. Simply vanished. This is not a trick of imagination. In the quantum world, vanishing is real. Not an illusion, not a sleight of hand, but a silent truth embedded deep within the fabric of existence. Welcome to the mysterious phenomenon of quantum tunneling, a process so delicate and strange, it defies our usual sense of how things are supposed to behave. In your everyday world, a ball cannot pass through a wall, but in the quantum world, particles sometimes do just that. Without cracking, breaking, or forcing, they slip quietly, gently through the barriers that contain them. Close your eyes, picture a hill. A small particle, let's say a tiny ball of light, rests in a valley, nestled between two slopes. It doesn't have enough energy to climb the hill ahead. According to classical physics, it should remain stuck there, forever unable to escape. But in the quantum realm, things don't stay stuck the way we expect, because the rules here are not solid. They are probabilities, waves of chance. And in one rare, quiet moment, the particle simply appears on the other side of the hill. No footsteps, no climb, just an arrival where there should have been none. This is quantum tunneling. It's as though the universe allows for an impossible shortcut, a secret door through the wall, used not by force, but by stillness. A flicker, a permission written in uncertainty. You cannot predict when it will happen, you cannot demand it, but you can observe its trace. In laboratories across the world, scientists set up tiny traps, potential barriers meant to contain electrons. And yet, despite these constraints, the electrons occasionally vanish from one side and reappear on the other. The barriers weren't broken. The electrons didn't speed over them. They tunneled through, not by brute energy, but by the strange probability that governs the quantum world. Let that image settle. Not a smashing escape, but a gentle, silent drift like mist finding its way through stone. Why does this matter? Because it means that the universe, at its smallest scale, is not bound by absolutes, not even by walls. Quantum tunneling powers the sun. It allows nuclear reactions to occur within the heart of stars, reactions that shouldn't be possible at the temperatures we see unless tunneling were real. It is the whisper behind fusion, the warmth behind sunlight, the process that lets starlight cross the void and touch your skin. It also plays a role in biology inside you. Enzymes in your cells use tunneling to speed up reactions that keep you alive. Tiny hydrogen atoms pass through energy barriers that classical rules would forbid. But quantum rules are more fluid, more forgiving, more surprising. And it doesn't stop there. Tunneling is part of the reason why some electronics work, why quantum computers are possible, why semiconductors behave the way they do. Technology depends on this strange permission, that particles occasionally defy their cages, that the improbable is not impossible. You begin to understand, reality is not a solid path, but a shimmering field of maybes, of almosts, of could-bes, and within that field, even what looks like confinement may hold a hidden escape. Even what seems permanent might just be a pause, a breath, a delay, before reappearance. Tunneling reminds us that being trapped is not always as final as it feels. You rest in that thought. In your own life, there are walls, there are valleys, moments where you cannot see the way forward, where the hill is too high, the energy too low, the effort too great. But the quantum world offers a new kind of metaphor, one that does not require effort or force, just possibility. Sometimes, the path is not over the hill, not around it, but through in ways unseen, and you don't always need to know how. The particle doesn't, it simply is, it simply goes. There is a comfort in that, in knowing that the universe itself carries within it the power of soft escape, the mystery of arrival without struggle, the permission to be more than our circumstances suggest. You linger here, in this place of reflection. Tunneling teaches that stillness holds motion, that being stuck is not the end of the story, and that even in the deepest trap, uncertainty opens a door. You exhale slowly. The night is quiet. Somewhere within the quantum fields all around you, particles are drifting, vanishing, appearing, without fuss, without noise. They are writing poems of motion in the language of chance. And as you listen, the silence bends toward the next mystery one, where things appear, not from escape, but from nothingness itself. A question is rising now, soft as starlight. How can something come from nothing at all? You sit quietly at the edge of thought, and around you, the world of certainty begins to soften. Once, everything seemed so definite. A stone was a stone, a wall was a wall, and a particle stayed in its place unless pushed. But now, you're learning that in the quantum world, the universe hums a different tune, one of chance and possibility, of presence and absence blending like mist at dawn. You picture a particle. Maybe it's an electron small beyond measure, invisible to even the finest instruments. It rests on one side of a barrier. The barrier is high, wide, and impenetrable, or so it seems. In your everyday world, a marble would bounce back from such a wall, rebuked. It wouldn't even try. But the electron, it doesn't quite play by these rules. It isn't truly in one place at all. It's not a marble sitting still. It's a cloud of possibility, a wave of likelihood, swelling and fading in space. You imagine this cloud pulsing near the wall, a shimmer of presence, and sometimes, rarely, softly, the wave stretches through the wall, not around it, not over it, but through, not as a defiance of nature, but as an embrace of what nature truly is: flexible, uncertain, filled with chances rather than certainties. This is tunneling, a quiet miracle of the quantum world. You see now that the barrier wasn't truly solid. It was a region of low possibility, not impossible, just unlikely. And quantum particles are not ruled by absolutes. They drift into the improbable, wearing the statistics of the universe like a cloak. Most of the time, they bounce back. But sometimes, just sometimes, they appear on the other side. It feels like magic, but it isn't. It's math, carried on the breath of reality. In this world, location isn't fixed. A particle doesn't have a single certain place, it has many possible ones. When you aren't looking, it's everywhere it might be. And even when you are, you're not quite catching it. You're merely collapsing the wave, like pressing pause on a flowing melody. Tunneling doesn't mean the particle breaks the laws. It means the laws are softer than they seemed. Like reeds that bend in the wind, they allow for slippage, for subtle crossing, for chance. You feel your own certainty loosen. Think about the choices in your life. How many things you thought were fixed decisions you couldn't unmake, paths you couldn't retrace, walls you couldn't pass. What if those walls were never as solid as they seemed? What if you too were a cloud of possibility? In the quantum world, truth is rarely a single point. It's a spectrum, a smear, a soft unfolding, and in that smearing, new paths can open. Even when the odds are low, even when the wall looks high, you sit with this thought, the stillness of it, the quiet rebellion it offers. There's beauty in uncertainty, in knowing that the universe doesn't shout, it whispers. That reality is not a firm stone, but a soft shimmer that flickers into focus and then fades. You remember now the words from before. There are no certainties, only waves of likelihood, and you feel them. You feel the comfort in this, strange though it may seem, because if nothing is absolutely fixed, then nothing is absolutely lost. Possibility, like the tunneling particle, always remains. It just lies dormant, waiting for the right kind of chance to rise again. Even your thoughts tunnel, don't they, drifting through the barriers of time and doubt. You sit here now, but some piece of you touches faraway memories, old dreams, futures not yet chosen. You are more wave than point, more possibility than proof. As you rest deeper into this idea, you wonder what else might tunnel through when given the chance. A feeling long buried, a hope you thought had faded, a change you thought too late to make. The universe doesn't forbid it. It simply makes it rare. And in that rarity, A quiet kind of beauty glows. You picture again the electron, now on the other side of the barrier, not because it forced its way through, but because the universe left the door slightly ajar, just enough. This gentleness is what stays with you. The realization that reality allows softness, that what seems impenetrable may simply be improbable, that with time, with chance, even the least likely outcome can become real. You breathe slowly, letting this sink in. You let it settle like stardust in a quiet room. Perhaps tomorrow, you'll look at your own barriers differently. Perhaps you'll remember that beneath their firmness lies a pattern of probability, a trembling chance, and that sometimes with no sound at all, you too can pass through. You rest now in the knowing that the universe is not a locked room, but a breathing space, that the laws are not cages, but contours soft and uncertain, and in that uncertainty, everything becomes possible, even the next mystery, already forming on the horizon of thought. If nothing is certain, what does it really mean to observe? You sit still now, in the hush of evening light, and feel the low hum of the world around you. Somewhere nearby, a device glows softly, a laptop resting, a phone charging, a tiny heartbeat of electricity pulsing unseen. What you don't see, what the quiet circuits keep secret, is the quantum mischief borrowed in their workings. Tunneling, a quantum trick once thought impossible, now made ordinary. It began as a whisper from the heart of reality, a phenomenon so small, so absurd, that the classical world shook its head in disbelief. Yet here it is, embedded in the veins of your technology. Imagine a wall, solid, impenetrable, and then imagine a particle soft as mist, yet precise as starlight passing through it. Not over, not around, but through. That is tunneling. It is not a battering force. It does not fight the wall. It simply disobeys, gently. Now, picture a tiny device, a tunnel diode, barely visible, yet remarkably bold. Most diodes allow current to pass one way, resist the other, but the tunnel diode allows a curious exception, when the voltage across it is just right, not too strong, not too weak. The electrons don't climb over the energy barrier, like ghosts slipping through locked doors. This behavior isn't wild chaos, it's precise, predictable. Engineers depend on it, and this little act of disobedience, a refusal to respect classical boundaries, creates a fast, efficient switch used in high-speed circuits. Devices that must act instantly, without hesitation, lean on this phenomenon, and the story deepens. Peek closer into the heart of matter itself, and you'll find another marvel, the scanning tunneling microscope, or STM, a tool so sensitive it can feel the surface of individual atoms, not see feel. Its needle hovers a breath away from a surface, never touching. But electrons tunnel from the needle to the surface, and from this tunneling current, an image forms. It's like reading Braille with a fingertip that never quite makes contact. A silent glide above the unknown, mapping its landscape with nothing but whispers of presence. Through this tunneling, we've seen what once was hidden, atoms arranged like beads in a tapestry, ridges and valleys sculpted at scales too small for light to reveal. It's a machine born of theory, made tangible by the very rules it dares to bend. And still, this quantum magic continues its quiet work. In the flash memory of your phone or laptop, tunneling takes on another role. Here it becomes a scribe. Tiny gates trap charges, encoding your photos, your messages, your thoughts. But to write and erase, to remember and forget, electrons must tunnel through insulating layers, barriers they are not classically allowed to cross, yet they do. Every time you save a file or take a picture, a cloud of electrons leaps through the wall. This is everyday alchemy, the intimate partnership between mind and machine, made possible by what was once considered an impossibility. Tunneling, for all its mischief, is a loyal servant. It follows the rules of quantum probability, not whim. It is not chaos, it is chance, measured and repeatable, like a river choosing its path over time. Like the moon influencing tides in predictable ways, even if we cannot touch it. You wonder, how did we come to build with this strange law? How did we take a ghost story from the quantum realm and weave it into practical circuits, dependable tools? The answer is patience, curiosity, a willingness to let go of classical certainty and embrace a different kind of truth, one written in probabilities and potentials. One that says even if the wall is high, something might still pass through. Our devices are no longer merely electric, they are quantum. Tiny decisions made by particles dancing through forbidden spaces, memories stored by tunneling, images revealed by tunneling, speed achieved by tunneling. And what does that mean for you? Here in this room, listening quietly as evening deepens, it means your world is not made only of the seen, but also the unseen, that the tools you touch, your phone, your laptop, even your bedside lamp hum with borrowed knowledge from the subatomic. It means we are, in every moment, in quiet partnership with the universe's strangest rules. There's something deeply human in that. To notice the absurd and still lean into it. To find use in what once seemed useless. To build with what was once invisible. It reminds you that innovation often begins with wonder and with questions that don't have immediate answers. The quantum realm does not obey our expectations. It offers a different rhythm, a quieter one, but not lesser. It reminds you that the world is stranger than we imagined and more generous than we deserve. Tonight, as electrons continue their clandestine dance through barriers, as currents rise and fall invisibly in the circuits nearby, you can rest knowing that your machines carry within them the same elegance that governs stars and atoms alike. They tunnel not out of defiance, but possibility. And we too find ways to tunnel. Through problems, through boundaries, through the seemingly impossible, we adapt, we wonder, we build. So you lie here, still and curious, letting your thoughts drift through this hidden architecture of function and mystery, through the knowing that in every flicker of a screen or saving of a photo, a secret passage is taken. A wall is crossed without force, a rule is followed that breaks another, and from this paradox, progress is born. But even as this story of tunneling in machines comes to a close, your mind lingers on what else might tunnel, unseen. What other boundaries are not as firm as they appear? For if electrons can tunnel through barriers, what of particles that tunnel through time itself? The room is quiet, the air still, and you begin to drift. Eyes closed, thoughts softening, you arrive in a space not bound by walls or clocks. Here, things are not what they seem, and that's where the wonder begins. You're floating above a surface, smooth, luminous, unfamiliar. Below you lies a strange terrain, one you can't quite touch. At first glance, it seems solid, but as you look closer, it begins to shimmer. Edges soften, boundaries blur. Everything that once felt certain begins to dissolve. You reach toward a tiny point of light, a particle, you think, but as your hand nears, it ripples like a reflection in water. Is it a particle, or is it a wave? The closer you try to pin it down, the more it slips away. This is the heart of quantum nature, duality. The thing you're observing exists both here and there, both as a speck and as a spread out possibility. Not one, not the other, but somehow both. A single electron does not travel like a marble rolling across a table. It dances, it hums. Its presence isn't fixed, but smeared across a range of potential places. And in that smearing, in that beautiful ambiguity, lies one of the most poetic truths of all. Matter, the very substance of you, of stars, of breath, is not fixed. It's fluid, its possibility, its motion and rhythm, and maybe, imagine a hill, a steep one. A marble rolling toward it would stop, held back by gravity, blocked by the slope. But if that marble were a quantum particle like an electron, something different might happen. It might disappear from one side of the hill and reappear on the other. Not because it climbed it, not because it jumped over it, but because it tunneled past through, as if the barrier wasn't quite real. This is quantum tunneling. Not a cheat or a trick, but a natural consequence of being a wave, a probability wave. You picture it now. The marble isn't just one place. It exists in many, like the echo of a sound, or the blur of motion in a dream. Part of that echo can slip into the hill, pass quietly through, and emerge where you didn't expect it. You feel this not as a fact, but as a sensation, like the way a whisper travels through a closed door, or how light filters through your eyelids in the morning. At this scale, the world is soft. It doesn't slam doors shut, it leaves them slightly ajar. And so, even when a particle seems trapped in a box, behind a wall, inside a nucleus, there's always a chance, a quiet possibility, a pulse of maybe, that allows it to appear somewhere it was never supposed to be. You see this tunneling now, as a flow not of objects, but of chance, a beat. The universe tapping its finger against the fabric of reality, testing, trying, tunneling. And you begin to feel it in yourself too. That you are not a fixed point, that the limits you've felt may not be walls, but waveforms, that what holds you in place could also let you pass through. It's a strange comfort, isn't it? To think of yourself not as a thing, but as a song, not bound, but resonating, not trapped, but dancing across fields of possibility. The stars above you shimmer with this same quantum glow. They were born from it, from tunneling particles in ancient nuclear cores. The sun itself shines because of quantum tunneling, allowing hydrogen atoms to fuse when, by all classical rights, they shouldn't. Even in the heart of our star, the impossible becomes inevitable, through the quiet work of chance. It's like walking through a fog where the air is thick with maybe, and through that mist, paths appear that logic alone would miss. A particle doesn't tunnel because it decides to. It tunnels because the rules of the very small are written in poetry. Not commands, but invitations. Not roads, but rivers. And so when you close your eyes again, you feel the world less as a machine, and more as a murmuring. A subtle hum beneath everything. A chant that pulses through stone and shadow alike. You are not apart from this. You are of it. You are the breath between certainties, the shimmer between here and there, the song that passes softly through unseen walls, somewhere deep within the atoms that make you, within the quarks and electrons and quantum clouds. Tunneling is happening, right now, a quiet passing through, and it changes you not in form, but in feeling. The sense that everything, even what seems impossible, holds a thread of maybe. As you float above this glowing terrain once more, you feel less like an observer, and more like part of the wave itself, drifting, merging, tunneling. The hill, the barrier, the limit, they are not as solid as they seemed. And just as you reach this realization, this sense of softness and passage and flow, a new thought begins to take shape. If particles can tunnel, if chance can pass through walls, then what does that say about time? What does that say about causality? The question lingers open, echoing, soft as breath, and slowly the next journey begins. You lie still, wrapped in the hush of night. The world softens, time dilates, and from the hush, something impossible begins to stir, not loud, not abrupt, but subtle, a whisper that dares to pass through what should be impenetrable. This is quantum tunneling. A rule breaker in the very foundation of physics, a shimmer in the barrier, a no turned softly into a yes. Imagine a hill steep and high rising between two valleys. In the daylight world, to cross it, you'd need the strength to climb. But in the quantum night, a particle simply appears on the other side, without ever scaling the height. It doesn't crash through, doesn't leap or claw, it just is. One moment here, the next moment there. A ghost slipping through a wall. You float now beside one such traveler, a tiny particle, neither bold nor reckless. It doesn't try to defy the odds. It simply obeys its own logic. Its world is not solid and sure like ours. It dances in probabilities. It exists in maybes. It explores not only where it is, but where it might be. And so, it tunnels not out of rebellion, but as a natural part of being. This act, so quiet, so strange, shapes stars. It lights the sun. Deep in the heart of that glowing furnace above you, hydrogen atoms long to fuse. But the barrier between them is vast. Like two dancers separated by a wall of fire, they should never meet. And yet, tunneling allows them to. A brief flicker, a sliver of impossibility, and suddenly light is born. The warmth on your skin, the green of leaves, the shimmering flight of a bird, all because particles find a way through, all because the universe is more flexible than it first appears. Tunneling is not just in the skies, it happens inside you in every cell, every strand of your DNA. Your atoms are ancient travelers, shaped by rules that seem to bend gently around the edges. In enzymes and electrons, this ghost walk occurs again and again, a quiet permission to exist, where logic says you shouldn't. You drift deeper now, and with you drifts the thought, what if tunneling shaped more than atoms? What if it shaped the very beginning of time? There is a moment physicists call inflation, a split second after the Big Bang, when the universe stretched like a balloon filling with air, only faster than light, in a silence deeper than silence. The laws that governed this expansion were not the ones you know. They were soft, quantum laws, uncertain, shimmering, dreamlike. In those first flickers, tunneling may have been the hand that set it all into motion. Picture the early cosmos as a restless field, like a blanket rippling in sleep. And in that field, potential energy poised on the edge of change. Suddenly, tunneling allowed it to fall into a new state, unleashing the birth of space, of time, of everything. It is the quiet breath before the symphony. And now, far from that fiery dawn, tunneling still hums. Scientists have seen it guide radioactive decay, the way atoms gently let go of particles over billions of years. They've seen it shape the fusion in stars, and the blinking of quantum dots in a lab. It is in the click of a transistor, the memory of your computer. It is in you, and around you, and beneath everything you call solid. And sometimes, tunneling doesn't stop at physics. It becomes a metaphor for how ideas sneak past doubt, for how life finds a way, even through the thickest wall of logic and reason. A seed cracks stone, a thought breaks silence, a person changes, not through force, but by slipping gently into a new possibility. As you breathe, consider this: even the most absolute seeming boundaries are not so absolute. Even nature's laws make space for wonder. Now let us return to the edges, to the most intense boundary of all, the lip of a black hole. Here, space curves into silence, gravity tightens like a fist. Not even light can escape, and yet, even here, tunneling may whisper. According to the physicist Stephen Hawking, black holes are not entirely black. They can leak. Slowly, subtly, they evaporate not through force, but through tunneling. Particles escape the event horizon, like breath from a sleeping giant. This is called Hawking radiation, and it may one day unravel a black hole completely. A star's corpse, undone not by violence, but by persistence, by the patient leaking of quantum whispers over aeons. You are stardust, yes, but also tunnel dust, a child of improbable crossings. Now, the air around you is still, the night, thick with possibility. The particle you followed before still glides softly beyond barriers, no fanfare, no sound, just the steady, impossible journey. And perhaps, just perhaps, your thoughts do the same. One idea, held lightly, slips past the wall of doubt. One question, long hidden, tunnels quietly to the light. And in this space between wakefulness and sleep, where thoughts glow softly like lanterns beneath a mist, the universe invites you to wonder. If tunneling can break the rules, gently and persistently, what else might? What else waits beyond the next invisible wall?